بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we had two sessions on how to raise our students and children with rationality. And inshallah, tonight we want to somehow complete. We cannot really finish, but somehow just wrap up the discussion about aql. And before I mention some kind of practical things, I would like to mention some hadith again, because these are so beautiful that you feel you must always reflect on them and start discussion with them. I am using the selection of Mizanul Hikmah, which is also translated as a scale of wisdom in English. You have several headings. One is about Qimatul Aql, the value of Aql. The second is Dawrul Aql fil Iqab wa Thawab, the role of intellect in reward and punishment. So Allah rewards and punishes people based on different factors. One key factor is how reasonable, how rational, how wise they are. And the third is Hujjiyatul Aql, the fact that Aql is a Hujjah. Fourth, Tafsirul Aql, interpretation of Aql, what we mean by Aql. Then Sifatul Aqil, characteristics of those who have wisdom. And then Ma Yazidul Aql, what increases Aql. Then Ma Yu'tabaru Bihil Aql, those things by which you can test Aql. Ma Yud'iful Aql, what weakens Aql. Ma Yadullu ala Dha'fil Aql, signs of weakness of Aql. Thamaratul Aql, fruits of Aql. Aduwwul Aql, enemy of Aql. So these are some of the headings here, and for each of them you find some hadith, several hadiths. I would like to quote some only. For example, one hadith that we have here is, and in some of my lectures I have mentioned this hadith, is from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This helps us to understand what we mean by aql. So aql is not just IQ. Aql is more than that. Sifatul aqili an yahluma amman jahila alayh. One of the characteristics of uqala, of the rational people, wise people, is that with respect to the people who wrong them, they can be patient. وَيَتَجَاوَزَ عَمَّنْ ظَلَمَهُ. Those who do those who do injustice to them, they can forgive. So aql comes with hilm and at-tajawuz, to be patient and to forgive. Those who are not aqil, they are driven by emotions, if they are emotionally hurt, there is no way that they can forget this. There is no way that they can forgive that person. But Aql says, okay, I am hurt, but I have to continue. I need to give this person a chance to change.
Recording in progress.
وَيَتَوَاضَعَ لِمَنْ هُوَ دُونَهُ. A requirement of Aql is humbleness towards the people that are lower than him, not even to the equals. Even those who are younger than you, for example, I don't know, your students, your children, or for example, you are very famous, they are not that famous, you are very rich, they are not that. Any person who is lower than you, you should be humble towards them. وَيُسَابِقُ مَنْ فَوْقَهُ فِي طَلَبِ الْبِرِّ, and competes with the people who are higher than him in seeking goodness. In seeking goodness, always see who is better than you and compete. Not compete with who is better than you in dunya, who is better than you in money. No, who is better than you in talab al-birr, in seeking goodness. وَإِذَا أَرَادَ أَنْ يَتَكَلَّمَ تَدَبَّرَ. Aqil has a special value for words, speech. Those who are not Aqil, they think words are not important. They can say whatever they like. Those who are Aqil, they know that words are sacred and they have to be conveying truth. Therefore, they are very careful about what they want to say because they don't want to betray words. So they think about what they want to say. فَإِنْ كَانَ خَيْرًا, if they find that this is good thing to say, تَكَلَّمَ فَغَنِمَ, then he would speak and benefits people. He benefits himself and others, listeners. وَإِنْ كَانَ شَرًّا, but if he finds that this is bad, فَسَكَتَ إِنْ كَانَ شَرًّا سَكَتَ فَسَلِمَ, remain silent, and at least if he doesn't benefit, at least salima, feels he's safe. وَإِذَا عَرَضَتْ لَهُ فِتْنَةٌ اسْتَعْصَمَ بِاللَّهِ وَأَمْسَكَ يَدَهُ وَلِسَانَهُ. If there is a situation in which truth and falsehood are mixed, and there is fitna, it's not clear, it's like a very, dusted, situation, you cannot see the truth, then ask Allah for refuge and doesn't do anything, doesn't say anything, stops till haqq becomes clear. وَإِذَا رَأَى فَضِيلَةً انتهز بها. When there is a virtue, then he would try to grab this virtue. لا يفارقه الحياء. Aql and haya are together. Positive shame. Aqil is very much concerned about the way he treats people and the way he is treated, and haya goes back to this. وَلَا يَبْدُو مِنْهُ الْحِرْص. He is not greedy, because Aqil is very practical, and if something is not useful, doesn't want it. Greediness means you are never satisfied. It's not a matter of how much you need, how much it's useful. You just want for the sake of having more. You see what beautiful qualities are here for uqala, and there are other hadiths. I cannot read more, unfortunately, because our time is very limited. Inshallah, you read yourself. I gave the reference, and you can find it also online. So, with this kind of understanding of aql, So it's not just something theoretical or just something about IQ or intelligence. Now let us go back to our discussion. I think we need to have a generation. Inshallah, we can still work on ourselves, and if we don't work on ourselves, we cannot have any positive impact on the youths and new generation. But if our generation cannot change, except individuals, maybe they can always change, but to expect that people who are in their middle ages and then they all change or majority of them change is difficult. But for the children, we can expect all of them or majority of them, inshallah, can become like this if we start working on educating them properly. For us, exceptions are there in those who change, but for them, there can be exceptions in those who don't change. Therefore, we can work on ourselves, but also together on the next generation, inshallah. I made a list of the things that we need to focus, we need to invest on. This is not necessarily in chronological order. I will try to observe chronological order as much as I can, but I don't promise. So you don't take it necessarily as a chronological order.
Okay.
The first thing that I want to mention is, and I think we touched upon this before, is the concern for truth. Rationality is very much related to truth. If we learn from childhood that there is something greater than each of us, that we need to adjust ourselves to that, and that is the truth. I am not the center of the world, or my interests are not center of the world, or my pleasure is not the center of the world. I am part of the world. I am important, but I'm not the center, I'm not the point of reference. Al-Haq. No, I think great success can come unless truth becomes very dominant in our education. Truth is very important, and this by itself is very important discussion. Therefore, how to deal with them if they lie, tell a lie, this is also very important. How to encourage them when they are truthful, it's very important. How to share stories about being truthful, etc., and how they should see in the parents also that they are very committed to the truth. These are very important things related to the discussion of rationality. The second thing is knowledge. Knowledge is our way to the truth. If truth, which is a reality, is important, how can you have access to the truth? Through knowledge. So knowledge becomes very important. Seeking knowledge, methods of learning, places of learning, means of learning, people who help us with learning like scientists, teachers. We should create positive image of all the things that serve a spread of knowledge. So knowledge is very, very important. If a child develops love for truth and for knowledge, then you don't need to tell him that you should go to a school, or you should study, you should take exam. He would do it automatically, very naturally. He would do it with pleasure, with joy. And also, as much as possible, when we encourage them to learn, we should mention the benefits of knowledge which are related to truth and related to human perfection, and not to say that we should learn because we want to get a good job and we want to get good money, or people respect us. These are okay if other things are not working, but this is lowering the position of knowledge. If we say to child that we go to school to get job, it's too little. Why we go to a school? Because we want to learn. We want to understand the truth better. Knowledge by itself has value, which is much more than salary or etc. So, truth, then knowledge, then anything which is serving knowledge, like books. If we make them love books, you may think this is something derivative, why it's so important. No, it's not derivative. If they love books, this by itself brings lots of goodness to them and prevents lots of bad things happening to them, because many problems are because of either not knowing, total ignorance, or by knowing just part of the truth, when we are not given the full presentation of the truth. But someone who is lover of the books, lover of reading, then automatically would always search, would not easily accept things. When you are used to read 100, 200 pages to find out something, then you would not accept easily things which are told or said on TV, for example, etc., or on YouTube. So love for means and instruments of knowledge become important, like books become very important. Another thing which I think we should encourage them is to take notes. They should love books. They should love also their notebooks. Books to read what we have been provided with. But then those things that are very interesting, we take note of them. We save for ourselves. And if we have some ideas, some thoughts, some questions, some memories, we write. So to encourage them to write their memories, to encourage to write, summary of the things they heard, or their questions, or if they have some new ideas, it's very important to get used to writing. Also, very important to be able to listen and to speak. These are also what rational people need. There is no person who is wise and rational and say, I don't need to talk, I only think. No, you have to talk if you're a rational person, because reason is given to all of us. If you want to make sure that your reason is functioning properly, you have to check it by discussing with other rational people. Maybe you are looking from a wrong perspective. Maybe you are suffering from one-sidedness, etc. Discussion is always very good. And you should always be happy to discuss. If not with everyone, at least with people who are known for their knowledge and wisdom, you should be able to discuss with them without worry, without hesitation. You should always welcome to be given chance to discuss. But discussion needs listening and speaking. We have to learn from childhood to listen. A child can be asked to, for example, read a book or share a story, and then we encourage others to listen. Listen carefully and share the summary of what they have listened or some points of what they have listened. To listen is very important. And then to talk. To talk without feeling embarrassed, without feeling shy, but also without feeling, that you can say whatever you like in a responsible way. Speak with courage, but at the same time with worry. That when I'm speaking, I have to learn that my words are, every word counts, every word is important. So, reading books, taking notes, discussing, which includes speaking and listening. Another thing which is very good is observation and experiment. Alhamdulillah, some of you mentioned good points. If you remember at the beginning of last session, some of you mentioned good points about this, so I don't need to repeat. What I like to add is to analyze. Analysis is very important. Rationality is not just seen in collecting information. Part of it is collecting information. You have to collect information, and you have to know where to collect reliable information. This is also very important. It's not that every information is reliable. Even sometimes, maybe by chance something is correct information, but it's not reliable because it's by chance. You haven't got it from good source. Yeah. If you find very good thing, but for example, on a piece of paper, you don't know, who is the author, what's the reference. So by chance it's good, but you cannot trust this. So rationality is a matter of knowing how to collect good information, reliable information. Yes, but it's more than that. Part of rationality is to know how to analyze information. Seeking information from reliable sources, maybe it's 10% of rationality. But great percentage of rationality comes later. One important aspect of it is to analyze. Maybe analysis is by itself 40-50%. You are able to dissect the topic and then those things which are not connected but are collected, to set them aside. Those things which are connected but not collected, to attract them. Sometimes people are overwhelmed. They give them 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of speech. Mind doesn't work. They accept. They say, okay, I accept. But you have to say, okay, you gave me 3 hours of speech. This was relevant. This was relevant. The rest were not relevant. And these information are missing. I need more information. Then if I have all those information with these relevant ones, I can make up my mind. This needs someone to be very analytic. We many times don't have that ability. So when we are faced with things, for example, in community, in family, in society, in politics, international politics, many people don't have ability to analyze. Many people have just inherited patterns, And with those inherited patterns, they quickly, think, they analyze and they answer, they interpret, and they always have ready-made analysis. But those who are wise, even if things look very repetitive, they don't take it necessarily to be repetitive. Like a good doctor. A good doctor, even if all the patients till morning had the same, for example, illness, when the next one comes, again they start investigating. They check all the symptoms carefully. They don't say, no, so far I have had all these people the same, so this must be the same. Looks the same, they must be the same. No, every case has to be decided by its own merits. So, ability to analyze is very important. By analyzing the issue, by analyzing the factors, and then the information that are needed, how much is available, how much we need to collect, then we can make a sense of this. But many times you are not able to find 100% reliable information. There is no, kind of, for example, if you want medicine, you go to pharmacy, say, okay, this pharmacy has a license, so medicine must be reliable. Yeah? If you want food, you go, for example, to good stores and say, they are very careful about food, hygienic, etc. I can buy food and be relaxed. But for the truth, for the information, there is no place, there is no guarantee. Therefore, here we need to be critical. When we buy medicine, we don't need that much to be critical if it is approved by medical or scientific societies. When we want to buy meat, we want to buy fruits, for example, we don't need that much to be critical. We can rely on endorsement of reliable authorities. But when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to especially issues related to socio-political issues or things about religion which are more than just the surface, if you want insight in your religion, basira, fadeen, if you want to understand how we can live Islam today in the way that would be loyal to original Islam, but at the same time keep Islam relevant and keep Islam fresh and keep Islam something that can bear new fruits, then here you cannot trust any a special library or any special school. You need to be critical of the information, even of graduates of the houses or scholars, because no one is trained for this. You can say, for example, have you studied fiqh? Says, yes, I have studied fiqh. These are my teachers, these are the books I have studied, these are my marks. Have you studied philosophy? Yes. But have you got wisdom? Have you got insight? Are you rational? Are you a person who understands the world today? Then how can you check these things? You cannot check these things by asking certificates or marks or teachers or houses they have studied. It can help to some extent, but it's not guaranteed. So critical mind is also very important. And here something that helps, I'm sorry, I am saying many things because there are lots of things and I don't know what to say and time is finishing. So I mentioned something, at least this remains for future discussion. Another thing which is very important and helps with this being critical, helps with being able to analyze, and the previous ones is to find, at least if there are no people that can help us by us learning from them, people who can travel with us, people that can be our partners in the search for the truth, for wisdom. A child should learn that this journey is not something that an individual can complete. We need peers, we need partners, we need co-travelers. We said discussion, but discussion can sometimes be by chance. Even if every day I can discuss every day with different people. This is not enough. We need collective search for knowledge, collective search for truth, collective search for wisdom. Many times I have said that what we understand in Islamic education, theory of education, is that knowledge needs to come through collective efforts. A student, teacher, but also a kind of group, not one teacher and one student only. It's not impossible, but the best it works is if you have a teacher and also you have partners. So you should be a circle. Teacher is the center of the circle, and other friends, we form a circle for learning. Discussion is very important. So for being critical, for being able to evaluate information after collecting, after analyzing, if you want to be critical and evaluate information, then we don't need to have access to Aristotle or Ibn Sina or Mullah Sadra or Allama Tabatabai. I wish we could, but we don't have. And even we may not always have access to great teachers. But why we don't form a group of few like-minded people who share their thirst for knowledge, who share their commitment to go beyond superficial things, beyond stereotypes, who are not satisfied by being told, although they are very obedient to authorities practically, but they always try to make up also their own minds of these things, because in Islamic leadership, the leader just does not just tell people what to do. The leader engages followers in understanding what should they do, and even seeks their opinion for himself to make up the decision. But إذا عزمت فتوكل على الله. At the end, when he makes up his mind, he issues the command and people follow. But people, before following and before he asking them to follow, are engaged with him in the process. And sometimes they can change his view before he makes the command. In any case, part of this process of collective search is to be critical together of what is happening, to discuss those things which are important for us, not to discuss everything because time is so little that we have to be selective. If we cannot waste our time discussing about everything that comes available on media. Okay, another thing that I have written here is if we can train ourselves and our students to always look at future. Looking at the past is very important, and that is part of process of collecting information. But about future, you cannot that much collect information. About future, you need to be able to guess. You need to be able to predict. This is hazm. We have lots of recommendations about considering end of affairs. تدبر عاقبته إذا هممت بشيء فتدبر عاقبته. If I say this, what is going to happen? If I don't say this, what is going to happen? If we organize this meeting, this event, if we start this masjid, if we, I don't know, undertake this project, what's going to happen? A rational person may make mistake, but not every mistake. A rational person is not going to make a mistake by not thinking about future. This kind of mistake he would never do. Yes, he may think about future, he may collect information, he may think about it, he may pray, but in the end he may make mistake about assessment, about what is going to happen. This is for something that can be forgiven. But if you don't think about future and just rush into things, this is not something that can be forgiven. So to train them to think about future and what consequences are going to happen, especially if, for teenagers onwards. Not to be forced by fashion. If something is fashionable, doesn't mean that we should do it or we should not do it. We shouldn't be against fashion or imprisoned by fashion. Majority, minority. We should be aware. And sometimes we need to go by majority. But none of these are signs of the truth. Maybe practically we are few people, we have to make a decision. Of course, it's better if we can go by consensus or almost consensus, not to rush. As soon as we have majority, minority, okay, we go by majority. It's better if we can discuss and see whether we can reach consensus. Many times, this is very healthy for running projects together. But some people may say, we cannot always do this. Some people are not patient. Anyway, sometimes we go by majority. But we know that even if we agree, it doesn't mean that it is true. It is right. Let alone if there is majority. So we always keep truth sacred. And we say, we admit that this may not represent the truth. But in the absence of a clear understanding of the truth, we agreed on something by majority, for example. But to say that majority are on the right side is wrong. To say that minority are the right side is wrong. Neither majority nor minority. Or to be old or new. We should not be afraid of being new or old. An idea can be good and new, can be good and old. Actually, when it comes to religion and to philosophy, if something has history, if something has been there among scholars for a longer period of time, if something is accepted by scholars of a wide range of religions or sects, actually this can add to the value. So to be old is not bad, and sometimes can be even good, but it's not a proof. And to be new is not also proof. Also, part of being rational, this is also what we understand from our hadith, is that you should not be selfish. With the points I have said, this becomes now very clear. Because if you are selfish, then truth is sacrificed. A rational person is after the truth, not after his own interests. So, in every decision, if I learn, and this is very difficult, very, very difficult, but we have to train ourselves. If you train yourself not to think of what is good for you. Imagine, for example, you are the coordinator of a class. For example, suppose I am a first year in primary school, or first year in university, first year in Jose, second year, whatever. I can always think about the interest of the group, or I can say, I am one of the group and I am the coordinator, I'm spending time, so I make things first in the way that would suit me and then others, but not letting people do something that would not suit me. So I would try to make sure that I and as many others would benefit, but I must be included. This is not rational, but it's very natural for people who are not trained. And if you are learning and you are, trained not to be self-centered, it's very helpful for future. In community, in family, when you marry, when you go for work, in politics. If you are from childhood trained not to be thinking about your own interests as the starting point. Yes, my interest as interest of one of people. Yes, as one person I am counted, but not more than one person. This is very important. So these are some of the things I wanted to share with you. If you are happy, then what maybe we can do is we can see how we bring these into our classroom, how we can for each of these things have activities, ways of assessing that these are progressing, and maybe also we can classify them according to the ages, for primary school, secondary school, for boys, for girls, but I think these are the main things that I wanted to say, in addition to what I said last session about making them first find out ability to trust, and then finding good authority, etc. All the things we mentioned last session. I stop here and thank you for your attention, and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us in continuing this discussion and in implementing, inshallah, these points in ourselves and others. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Thank you, Sheikh. Yeah.
You're welcome. Do we have some comments or questions? May Allah bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheikh. It was very informative, actually, lecture.
Alhamdulillah.
The thing is, what I'd like to know is how to bring this to our class. I know from my prior experience, I know I have, but what you bring today is very, what I say, very critical. Yani, to train, for example, a student to be not the center, not self-centered. You know, especially this age between 11, 12, 13. Always they say, I am, I am, I am. So what's your advice for this, please?
So we have to discuss these things. We have to bring examples of the lives of Ahlul Bayt, or pious people, ulama, contemporary figures. But activities are also very important. Maybe some games can be designed, or maybe they are already available. I have not looked for games, etc. But some activities, some games that can emphasize on this characteristic, or asking them to write, things about this. I think each of these can have lots of activities, but I need your help also, because maybe based on your experience, or maybe you can look around and find activities, so that we can say that, for example, if you want someone to be not self-centered, what should be good, like good activities. Or if you want someone to be able to have habit, not accidentally, habit of thinking about future before saying anything, before doing anything. So maybe we can have some activities for this.
So do you think we have to have a play, prepare activity?
Yes.
Share it, and then we bring it to the class. Yeah.
Because saying this once, twice is not enough.
Yeah.
This should be said in different ways. Once someone said they are making an encyclopedia for Imam Hussein in Iraq. I don't know how many volumes, I said, okay, this can be a good thing, inshallah. But I think instead of saying 100 things about Imam Hussein, we should say one thing, but in 100 ways. If you say
one, I remember the dignity.
Yeah, if we say one thing in 100 way, through lecture, through poems, through movies, through animation, competitions, etc., then that one thing can be established. But if touch upon everything, but just run through them, nothing is going to be established. Even people get confused because we bombard them with different things, and so we need to make sure that we establish these things.
And what about listening? I think
listening
most of students, yes, in nowadays, they don't know how to listen.
Yes.
They don't know how to listen. This is very difficult, to be honest.
This is easy. This is easier. This is easier, maybe, to arrange. Yeah. You can create scenarios that they listen, and in order to be attentive in their listening, they should, for example, give a report of what they have listened to.
Okay, good. So, do you think listening is a habit more than a train? Can be trained?
Of course, it's a habit, but you can develop the habit. It's like driving. So driving is also a habit, but but you need to train yourself.
because it takes time, especially if you have a limit time in the class, and this is quite difficult, I think.
But also, sometimes this can be done in the way that is a collective attempt. For example, if they have 3 teachers, all the 3 teachers, they know that they are working on these values, but in different ways. So it's not that just one teacher does this and other teachers do nothing.
Yes, so they have one voice with all the teachers.
Yes.
The same, yeah, I think is good idea, yeah. Very good, thank you. Ajarakumullah.
May Allah bless you.
Very helpful.
Yeah. I think, a question also.
There's a question in the chat from Sister Fatima. She says, I had a question regarding analyzing information. What activities do you recommend to develop analytical thinking and assessing skills?
Yeah. Of course, part of it is through logic, but it's difficult to teach them logic and critical thinking. But maybe, for example, you can start with 1-page story. You can ask them to read, and then you can ask them to analyze it. This one story can be analyzed into maybe 10 points. Okay, so then they realize that they should take things seriously. Someone says, oh, I didn't, for example, notice this point was also mentioned. Or, for example, maybe they can see a picture, and among the things that they see on the picture, some can be very outstanding, some needs, to be analyzed. Or sometimes stories of the Quran also can be used. It's very interesting that Quran doesn't mention many details, but those details can be implied. Okay? So you can mention the story and then ask them to analyze and also to find the relevant information that can be understood by implication. For example, about Prophet Musa ala nabiyina wa alayhi salam, or about Lady Maryam salamullah. In some lectures I have tried to do this, to say that how these things can be understood from the ayah. For example, maybe some need an example. For example, Allah says that Musa alayhi salam was traveling with his family in the night, and then he saw fire. فَقَالَ لَأَهْلِهِمْ كُثُوا إِنِّي آنَسْتُ نَارًا. He said to his family, stay, I have seen a friendly fire. Okay, now we need to analyze this. How was the condition of Musa alayhi salam? It was night, it was dark. When you travel in for example, desert in the night with your family, you are worried about maybe animals, maybe dangers are there, thieves can be there, so you are very alert. You look around. Where did he find this fire? If this fire was on the way, he didn't need to tell them stay. He could just go with them forward and reach. So this fire must be out on the side. So he was looking on the side as well. And he didn't want to take a risk. So he asked the family to remain on the road, and he himself went to check. He didn't take a risk of taking all family with him there. So lots of things can be understood by analyzing. You're welcome. May Allah bless you, inshallah.
just as an FYI, I haven't seen specifically Islamic resources for critical thinking, but there are some projects out there in case you're interested, specifically for probably a little bit older, so maybe teens, just learning how to detect cognitive biases or logical fallacies. So there are some good resources that maybe can be taken with a grain of salt because they're not Islamic resources, but like the Critical Thinking Project is one that you can take a look at, that also levels it according to students and helps them to learn to find some of these fallacies.
Yes.
Thank you, sisters. Very good.
Hajra, if I may ask a question, if there aren't other questions so far.
Yes, please.
You're speaking about, the source of information for these students, and especially if we're talking about younger students, where we do want to nurture in them that love for the ulama, but then at the same time, there is a need to be cautious, especially because there's a lot of access to maybe a lot of different people who have taken on that identity, I suppose. So not just locally, but also online. So what can we do to help to get younger people to be a little bit more cautious about the source of information, but at the same time not reduce from the status or the haiba of the ulama, or not to get into something that might be divisive, with some people who may start naming certain people, because it doesn't seem like we have a very clear model or even a clear hierarchy. Like maybe at the very top, there's a lot more clarity because we have the maraja, but beyond that, between the maraja all the way down to the lay people in my local town, there doesn't be seem to be more clarity on that. So is there like maybe some good criteria for true scholars so that we don't end up with a lot of these situations where people in our communities feel so disappointed? They invested so much time and they really had a great respect for a certain person, and then something happens, for example, where they feel disappointed. And then at the same time, if it's done too early, some of these cautionary measures are relayed too early, it could tarnish the image of the institution itself, or they might feel suspicious or something along those lines.
Yes. So it depends on the age and the progress, but they have to first refer to ulama. Then we have to think about how to avoid problems. But first they have to, like for example, first you make a habit of reading books, then you talk about how to select books. If at the beginning you want to say, some books are, very bad or very poisonous, etc., maybe it would not help them developing love for books. It should come later. Like, for example, we love food, then by experience we realize that some food are not good. But first we just love. Also, as I said, with the authority is the same. First they should trust teachers, trust elders. Then little by little we said, okay, a small minority may have problem and be problematic. That comes later. So I think first they should be able to trust people who have imama, people who come on member, people who lead jama'ah. They should love them, trust them. Then little by little you make it more sophisticated. You add more details to it. And we should have definition. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't, as you said, have definition. Who is alim? Who is imam? Sometimes, they say this person is our resident alim. Is it resident alim or is resident imam? Alim has definition. We have alim, we can have assistant alim. Someone who is not alim but it's like a nurse. It's not a doctor, but a nurse. Sometimes it's not even nurse. Just one of us has a little knowledge about first aid. This doesn't become then resident alim. So people have to be understanding. Who can be a speaker? Sometimes people give member to everyone, even some children, to encourage them. Many years ago, I was very unhappy when I noticed in one of the communities they gave a teenager member. So they had invited him from another country for, I don't know, Muharram, Ramadan, etc. And I was just not happy because of the age. I said, this age is not the age that you ask someone to give 10 lectures or whatever. And unfortunately, that person now has become a big problem in part of the world and has affected many people, ideas about Imam Zaman, etc. But they so much loved him, and they so much even tried to encourage him by giving him 10 lectures, for example. Another country, they invited him to go and give lectures. So when we don't observe the requirements of member, then it can create lots of problems for the audience and even for the speakers. Then they think they can say anything. Member is like a surgery theater. Only very well trained doctors can do surgery. Only very well trained people can go to member. Yes, we can say, okay, our member right now, because we don't have any scholar, is not used. We invite some people and give them, a speaker to talk, but not to go on member.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So then this whole idea of, you said rationality and wisdom is very different. It's not always so evident. How can we actually, are lay people expected to try to make those distinctions? Because there can be mistakes, for example, to try to understand a person's maybe status or whatnot, or whether they're a source, or do we rely entirely on other scholars, let's say, who maybe have established certain credibility to make that determination?
I think it needs a collective work. Communities should seek guidance from hawzas, maraja, about etiquettes of inviting people. But also our hawzas and maraja should provide them with some guidelines. Hand in hand, we should work on this. We should not wait for something happen automatically or by chance. At least we need to make people sensitive about these issues.